The Space Shuttle mission NASA hid from the world. In 1988, the Space Shuttle Atlantis returned to Earth with severe damage. Over 700 heat shield tiles compromised. NASA classified the mission, sealed the records, and refused to release photos for decades. What were they hiding? The blackened hull of Atlantis told a tale of near-catastrophe. Scorch marks and missing tiles created a terrifying mosaic of what could have been one of NASA's darkest days. Why did officials respond with such secrecy? Today we reveal the true story of STS-27, the military reconnaissance mission that almost ended in tragedy, and the real reasons this harrowing chapter in space exploration remained hidden from public view for over 30 years. The mysterious return of Atlantis. What if I told you that one of NASA's most dangerous missions was deliberately hidden from public view for decades? December 2nd, 1988. Space Shuttle Atlantis thundered into the sky on what appeared to be a routine mission. 5 days later, on December 7th, the orbiter touched down at Edwards Air Force Base in California. But something was different about this landing. The usual throng of media was notably absent. No live television coverage broadcasted the shuttle's return. It was as if NASA wanted no one to see Atlantis. The reason became clear when ground crews approached the spacecraft. What they discovered sent shockwaves through NASA's ranks. Atlantis had suffered catastrophic damage to its thermal protection system. More than 700 heat shield tiles were damaged or completely missing, an unprecedented level of destruction never before seen on any shuttle mission. Like a protective armor with critical pieces ripped away, the shuttle's vulnerable underbelly had been exposed. One particularly concerning area had exposed the aluminum airframe directly to the searing heat of re-entry, where temperatures can reach over 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. We were lucky to get home. Commander Robert Gibson would later recall, after declassification allowed him to speak about the mission. The crew had known about some damage, but couldn't assess its severity while in orbit. When they finally saw the condition of their spacecraft after landing, they were stunned. Mission specialist Mike Mullane would later write that the damage was so severe, it was amazing we made it back. Within hours of landing, NASA security teams cordoned off the shuttle. Engineers examining the damage were sworn to secrecy. Every photograph taken of the damaged tiles was immediately classified. NASA's photography team, typically allowed to document the shuttle's condition, found themselves restricted from normal access points. Those who did see the damage were explicitly forbidden from discussing it outside secure facilities. When reporters inquired about Atlantis' condition, NASA provided a carefully crafted statement. According to the official explanation, STS-27 had been a successful routine mission with minor anomalies during re-entry. Those minor anomalies had nearly resulted in the deaths of 5 astronauts and the loss of a billion-dollar spacecraft. The standard post-mission debriefings were conducted behind closed doors with additional security protocols. Even within NASA, information about the mission was strictly compartmentalized, a need-to-know basis that left many agency employees in the dark about what had truly transpired. This level of secrecy was unusual even for NASA, an organization accustomed to managing sensitive information. The agency had weathered public disasters before, most notably the Challenger explosion just 2 years earlier in 1986. That tragedy had been broadcast live to millions of viewers, forcing NASA to conduct its accident investigation in full public view, facing difficult questions about its decision-making and safety culture. So why handle STS-27 differently? If Atlantis had nearly suffered catastrophic failure, wouldn't transparency about the close call help improve safety procedures? NASA's public mission had always emphasized openness and civilian scientific advancement. Yet here was evidence of something else, a mission so sensitive that even a near disaster had to be hidden. As the damaged shuttle was quietly repaired, engineers who inspected Atlantis calculated that the orbiter had come perilously close to breaking up during re-entry. The missing tile that exposed the aluminum frame was located in one of the most vulnerable areas of the heat shield. Only a fortunate coincidence had saved the spacecraft. A steel mounting plate happened to be positioned directly beneath that critical spot, providing just enough thermal protection to prevent a burn-through. Had that steel plate not been there, Atlantis would have suffered the same fate that Columbia would experience 15 years later in 2003, when damage to its thermal protection system led to the orbiter breaking apart during re-entry, killing all 7 astronauts aboard. The parallels are chilling. Except Columbia's tragedy unfolded on live television, while Atlantis' near-miss remained classified for decades. Years passed before the truth began to emerge in fragments. Former crew members occasionally made vague references to close calls during interviews. Aviation publications printed rumors of significant damage. But comprehensive details remained locked away in classified files, unavailable for public or scientific scrutiny. It wasn't until nearly 30 years later, when declassification finally allowed the full story to be told, that the public learned just how close Atlantis had come to disaster. The images of the damaged shuttle, when finally released, showed a spacecraft that looked like it had flown through a hailstorm of bullets, hundreds of gouges, chips, and missing tiles covering its black and white surface. The revelation fundamentally challenges our understanding of the Space Shuttle program. While presented to the public as a civilian scientific endeavor, many shuttle missions served primarily military and intelligence objectives. What few outside the classified program knew was that Atlantis had successfully deployed a sophisticated reconnaissance satellite into orbit, codenamed ONYX, with capabilities so advanced and a mission so vital to national security that protecting its secrets took precedence over normal safety protocols and public disclosure requirements. STS-27 wasn't an anomaly. It was part of a pattern of classified operations hidden behind NASA's public image. The Pentagon's Space Shuttle, the extraordinary secrecy surrounding missions like STS-27 reveals a fundamental truth about the entire Space Shuttle program. From its very inception, the Space Shuttle carried dual citizenship in both civilian and military domains. What millions watched during those iconic launches was often a cleverly disguised military operation. Few Americans realized that the Space Shuttle's distinctive delta wing design and massive cargo bay weren't created to maximize scientific potential. These features were direct results of Pentagon requirements. When NASA began conceptualizing a reusable spacecraft in the early 1970s, the Department of Defense saw an opportunity to advance its own space capabilities and quickly became deeply involved in the program's development. This partnership fundamentally shaped the entire Space Shuttle program. The Pentagon provided critical funding and technical support, but this financial backing came with significant strings attached. Military planners insisted on specific design requirements that would accommodate their classified payloads. The shuttle's massive 60 by 15-foot cargo bay, large enough to fit an entire city bus, was sized precisely to carry the military's reconnaissance satellites into orbit. Like a custom suit tailored to conceal a weapon, the shuttle's external design masked its internal military capabilities. The cross-shaped arrangement of the main engines, the shuttle's orbital maneuvering capabilities, and even its thermal protection system were all influenced by military requirements. These design elements were mandates that NASA had to incorporate to secure funding for the program. The result was a spacecraft serving both the public-facing NASA and the shadow presence of the Department of Defense. This arrangement created an unusual dynamic within the Space Shuttle program. While NASA maintained operational control of the vehicles, the Department of Defense retained authority over missions carrying military payloads. These classified operations were identified by the same STS designation as civilian missions, but operated under vastly different protocols regarding information disclosure and security. The military's investment warranted its own dedicated launch facility. At Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, the Pentagon constructed a specialized launch complex designed specifically for Space Shuttle missions carrying classified military payloads. This facility enabled launches into polar orbits, trajectories passing over Earth's poles rather than following the equatorial path used for most civilian missions. Polar orbits were particularly valuable for military reconnaissance because they allow satellites to eventually pass over every point on Earth's surface as the planet rotates beneath them. This made them ideal for comprehensive surveillance of adversary territories, especially Soviet military installations. The Vandenberg launch site represented a massive investment in infrastructure specifically supporting military space espionage capabilities. Although the Challenger disaster in 1986 prevented the Vandenberg facility from fulfilling its intended purpose, its construction demonstrates the Pentagon's deep commitment to utilizing the space shuttle for military objectives. The Department of Defense had planned numerous classified missions from this location, all designed to deploy assets, enhancing America's intelligence gathering capabilities during the Cold War. Behind the scenes, the National Reconnaissance Office, NRO, played a pivotal role in planning and executing these classified space operations. The very existence of the NRO was itself classified until the early 1990s, creating a situation where one of the primary users of the Space Shuttle program couldn't be publicly acknowledged. This secrecy extended to the purposes and capabilities of the payloads being deployed during military shuttle missions. The NRO worked closely with NASA to ensure that the shuttle could meet the specific needs of the intelligence community. This collaboration was essential for integrating sophisticated reconnaissance satellites into the shuttle's cargo bay and deploying them precisely into their designated orbits. The technical requirements for these deployments were extraordinarily complex, requiring specialized training for the astronaut crews involved. This arrangement created a unique dynamic where NASA astronauts, publicly celebrated as scientific explorers, were actually conducting military intelligence operations that couldn't be disclosed to the public. Crew members on classified missions underwent additional security clearances and specialized training beyond what was required for standard scientific missions. The Space Shuttle program became an icon of American ingenuity and scientific advancement, inspiring generations of children to pursue careers in science and engineering. Yet behind this inspirational facade, many shuttle missions were executing military objectives that advanced America's strategic position in the Cold War space race. For classified missions, the Department of Defense maintained significant operational control over mission parameters, communications protocols, and information disclosure. NASA effectively became a service provider, operating the spacecraft while the Pentagon directed the mission objectives and controlled what information reached the public. This partnership proved particularly valuable during the height of the Cold War. While the Soviet Union could track shuttle launches and landings, the classified nature of many missions prevented them from determining exactly what capabilities the United States was deploying in orbit. This information advantage allowed the U.S. to maintain technological superiority in space-based intelligence gathering. By the time STS-27 launched in 1988, these classified military shuttle missions had become a well-established component of America's space operations. What made STS-27 unique wasn't its classified nature, but rather the extraordinary danger the crew would face due to the damage sustained during launch. Mission STS-27, the official cover story. As Commander Robert Hoot Gibson prepared to lead Atlantis into orbit, he carried the weight of the mission so classified that even severe damage to the shuttle would be discussed only through encrypted channels. The 5 astronauts of STS-27 were about to embark on a journey that officially didn't exist, at least not in the way NASA described it to the American public. NASA's public portrayal of STS-27 concealed all meaningful details, referring to it simply as a Department of Defense mission. This designation deflected questions while signaling to journalists that probing further would be futile. The agency's communications focused exclusively on surface-level details, crew assignments, launch schedules, and basic flight parameters, carefully omitting any reference to the actual objectives. By limiting public discourse to generalities, NASA acknowledged the mission's existence while revealing nothing of its purpose. Media inquiries about the payload were met with practiced non-answers from public affairs officers who themselves had limited access to the mission's true nature. Launch preparations reflected this extraordinary secrecy. STS-27's exact departure time remained classified until just 24 hours before liftoff, giving potential adversaries minimal opportunity to position intelligence assets that might observe the classified payload during deployment. The December 1st, 1988 launch date arrived with unacceptable conditions. Cloud cover and strong winds forced controllers to scrub the attempt. Weather improved the following day, and Atlantis finally cleared Pad 39B to begin what NASA characterized as a routine operation. Yet everything about this mission was exceptional. Commander Gibson and his crew, pilot Guy Gardner and mission specialists Richard Mullane, Jerry Ross, and William Shepard, underwent specialized preparation beyond standard training. Their pre-flight regimen included extensive security briefings and military protocols for handling classified aspects. Each crew member understood that virtually everything they would do in orbit would remain undisclosed, even to their families, creating a profound sense of isolation in their service. The launch site transformed with unusual security measures. Military personnel maintained a visible presence throughout Kennedy Space Center, with restricted areas expanding beyond normal perimeters. Access to certain facilities required special clearances, creating a parallel operation for thousands of NASA employees who supported the launch without knowing its purpose. The Air Force's influence pervaded mission planning and execution. Military personnel occupied positions within mission control, typically staffed by NASA specialists. These Department of Defense representatives ensured communications about certain aspects remained secured and compartmentalized even within NASA's operations. For Gibson, the mission presented unique challenges beyond technical spaceflight requirements. The crew was instructed to use encrypted methods for all sensitive communications, including images showing damage to the orbiter. This requirement became consequential when poor quality images failed to convey the severity of Atlantis' heat shield damage. Gibson felt the crushing weight of this knowledge, certain they faced potentially catastrophic damage while unable to effectively communicate this reality through the mandated secure channels. Gibson's frustration became evident as he recounted his certainty about Atlantis' severe damage, contrasted with ground controllers' optimistic assessment based on degraded imagery. His crew carried the psychological burden of classified knowledge they couldn't share, operating a damaged spacecraft they couldn't fully inspect, while communicating through protocols that prioritized secrecy over clarity. While the public received sanitized information about a routine deployment, Gibson later revealed that after initial deployment, the crew re-rendezvoused with the satellite and assisted with fixing it before separating again. A complex operation demonstrating their mission was active satellite servicing rather than simple deployment. This gulf between public narrative and operational reality shows how NASA transformed truth into constructed fiction when national security demanded. The communication strategy provided media just enough information to file stories without revealing anything meaningful about actual operations. For the astronauts' families, secrecy created additional strains. Unlike crews on scientific missions, STS-27's astronauts maintained silence about their activities even in private conversations. Personal communications from orbit were monitored and restricted to prevent inadvertent disclosure of classified information. Behind this elaborate secrecy lay a mission of extraordinary strategic importance. The payload represented cutting-edge reconnaissance technology developed at enormous expense. From the Pentagon's perspective, operational security measures weren't excessive but necessary to protect both the technology and conceal its capabilities from Soviet intelligence. NASA's acceptance of these security measures reveals how deeply the agency had become intertwined with national defense objectives. Despite its public image as a civilian scientific organization, NASA regularly subordinated operational transparency to military requirements during classified missions. What makes STS-27 remarkable isn't merely the secrecy surrounding its purpose, but how that secrecy extended to dangers facing the crew. When Atlantis sustained damage during launch, the classified nature influenced every aspect of the response. Information about the shuttle's condition was handled through the same restricted channels as details about the payload, creating a dangerous situation where operational security potentially compromised flight safety. ONYX, the secret payload. The risks taken on STS-27 raise a fundamental question. What treasure was Atlantis carrying that warranted endangering a billion-dollar spacecraft and its crew? The answer lies in a technological marvel codenamed ONYX, a satellite with capabilities so advanced that most details remain classified decades later. Behind the vague designation of a Department of Defense payload lay one of America's most sophisticated intelligence-gathering instruments ever placed in orbit. ONYX, also known within intelligence circles as LaCrosse, represented the cutting edge of the Keyhole Reconnaissance Satellite program, specifically a third-generation KH-11 spy satellite. This marked a revolutionary advance in America's ability to monitor adversaries from space. What made ONYX extraordinary was its digital imaging technology that could transmit photographs back to Earth in near real time. This technological leap eliminated the dangerous and complicated film return capsules that previous generations relied upon. Intelligence analysts could receive critical information almost immediately after capture, rather than waiting days or weeks. According to declassified information, the resolution quality was so exceptional that KH-11 satellites could clearly photograph something as small as a license plate from hundreds of miles above Earth, allowing American intelligence to track Soviet missile deployments and troop movements with remarkable accuracy. ONYX wasn't built by NASA, but constructed through a partnership between Lockheed Martin, the National Reconnaissance Office, INRO, and the Central Intelligence Agency. This collaboration fused America's most advanced aerospace engineering with its most secretive intelligence requirements. The satellite's development costs likely ran into billions, reflecting both its technological sophistication and strategic importance. The system's primary advantage came from its synthetic aperture radar, SAR, technology, which enabled the satellite to see through cloud cover and even penetrate soil under certain conditions. This capability eliminated a major limitation of traditional optical reconnaissance, dependency on clear weather. Soviet military planners could no longer rely on cloud cover to hide their activities from American eyes. The transmission system was equally impressive. Early KH-11 satellites utilized the tracking and data relay satellite system to transmit imagery to a ground station at White Sands, New Mexico. This satellite-to-satellite communication reduced the time between image capture and analysis by eliminating the need to wait until passing over American territory. The physical dimensions of ONYX explain why the space shuttle was essential for deployment. Its size and weight exceeded the carrying capacity of conventional expendable rockets available then. Although exact dimensions remain classified, it likely approached the maximum capacity of Atlantis' 60 by 15-foot cargo bay. Only the shuttle could deliver such an enormous payload to the specific orbit required. Timing was crucial for the ONYX deployment. By 1988, the Cold War was entering its final years, though few could predict the Soviet Union's imminent collapse. The satellite provided vital insights into Soviet activities during this period of historical uncertainty. Its orbit was carefully calculated to maximize surveillance coverage of Soviet territory, following patterns optimized for intelligence gathering rather than the geosynchronous orbits used by civilian satellites. ONYX significantly advanced American reconnaissance capabilities. Previous systems like the KH-9 Hexagon Big Bird carried 60 miles of photographic film with twin optical cameras that intelligence officials described as mowing the lawn. Though impressive with resolution capabilities of about 2 to 3 feet, this system relied on physical film returns. After release from Atlantis' cargo bay, ONYX faced a critical challenge when its massive antenna failed to properly deploy. This antenna was essential for radar imaging and communications. Without it, the billion-dollar asset would be severely compromised or rendered useless. The crew confronted a difficult choice: abort the primary mission or attempt a dangerous repair. Using the shuttle's robotic arm, the astronauts performed a delicate operation under extreme time pressure to assist with the antenna deployment. The success of this repair determined whether America would gain a crucial intelligence advantage in the ongoing Cold War.